Hey, it's Matthew, and I'm out on my hike today again, just around the neighborhood. And anyway, I want to just teach a little bit today about what I call the S.T.A.R strategy. You could say it's being a star. The attitude of being a star. S.T.A.R is an acronym, S.T.A.R. Fundamental principles that I've learned to lean on in life, because circumstances are like a hand at a card table. So not every hand that you're dealt is going to win. But if you play with a strategy like you're the casino or like the house, then overall you take the victory and you win. But you may not win every hand, and that's okay. So just like a poker player has certain principles, they have certain strategy that they would play by, and they use certain laws of mathematics, and they come out ahead overall if they're good. Well, you don't have to be skilled in much to pull this off. All you have to have is a little faith and some courage to apply it, at least long enough to see the results start to happen in your life. So the first acronym is S, and that has to do with the seed. Just like planting something in the ground, everything has a seed and harvest principle. So what you sow is what you reap. You know that. You've heard that before. And yet how few people can actually remember it when it comes to daily life. It's so many people, they talk about how they lack something. They don't have love, they don't have money, or their health is in question. And often, when you really get to the bottom of it, they don't have money because they don't sow anything in order to have the money. They haven't sowed anything, so why should they expect to reap a harvest? Same goes with love. Some people say they're lonely, they don't have anybody. Well, if you think about it, a lot of times they have isolated themselves and pushed themselves away from everybody, and they've sowed that seed into their environment. So what do they expect? What else would they expect besides to be isolated and alone? And health, well, maybe they smoked cigarettes for the last 10 years or had a very poor processed only diet, or they lived a life of too much stress for too long. And they sowed all of that into their biochemical body, and now they're paying the price. And yet, we sometimes don't tend to look at the bigger picture until it's too late, or until there's a disaster, and then we try to do a cleanup. And the universe isn't always as fast as we would like it to be, so it's good to live ahead of it. And what I'm talking about is you do reap what you sow. And so you want to learn to live by this seed principle. And if you sow honor, then you'll expect to receive favor, the shortcut to success. If you sow money, you should expect to receive money, abundance, prosperity. If you sow love, then that love will come into your life one way or the other. It doesn't always come from the person that you sowed into, or the environment, or the ministry if you're donating, etc. Don't expect the person that you are blessing to be the one who blesses you back. Unless you have a mutual relationship with that person and there's the rules or the unspoken expectations that you have to meet for each other. But don't walk up to a stranger and plant a seed into that person, then expect them to perform. That's a performance contract. That's not a seed.
Hello, it's Amanda with Alpha Upgrade. This is my favorite ritual. Milkane is a chocolate fat-burning energy-boosting formula that allows you to crush it. Milkane is packed with adaptogens, minerals, and vitamins to help you combat stress, always on your A game. It has brain-boosting power ingredients like bacopa, L-triosine, and more for the ultimate dopamine rush. Hence the name, Milkane.
A performance contract is not a seed. A seed is a genuine, planted, whatever it is, that you understand that will come back to you from some point in the universe, not necessarily from the person, place, institution, thing, whatever, that you sowed it into. I'll give you an example. Years ago, when I first learned about this, I wasn't very prosperous. I didn't have a lot of money because I didn't get to the T part. The T part's the most powerful part of the S.T.A.R formula, by the way. But while I was still in the seed part, I was about 20, maybe 22 years old, and I went out with this girl from the gym and spent an evening with her at dinner, and I realized that she wasn't in a very good spot, even worse than I was financially, which was hard to believe back then. And she needed, she didn't have any food to eat at home, and she was really in a bad spot. So I remember giving her $100, and I told her that's for her to go buy food to, get whatever she needs. And for me, $100 back then was a lot of money. Back then, $100 is probably what $10,000 is to me today. That's, that was a substantial amount of money back then for me. And I was really struggling back then. So it is what it is. But I got wise, and I'm going to teach you the same things. So if you're down to your last $100, it's because, look, you haven't been planting the right seeds. You haven't been following the S.T.A.R formula I'm going to tell you about. And don't expect it to happen by tomorrow morning if you start planting the seeds today. Just know that you change your future ahead of time. You change everything now, and then it shows up, what they say, down the road, because karma will catch you down the road. All right, so the next part of the equation is the T. Most powerful form, most controversial, most uncompliant part of anybody I've ever people that I coach, and I don't understand. I do understand why, but it, you know, I refuse to coach people who don't take the advice they pay me for. Because the thing is I only offer advice with problems that I have solved and I have the wisdom from the experience. I don't coach people on theory or strategy that I've never applied. So when I do share something like what I'm going to tell you now, it's coming from a place of knowledge, experience, wisdom. So the T is for tithing. And a tithe means the sacred tenth. It means to break off the sacred tenth. And it's been practiced throughout thousands of years. And to make a long story short, a tithe is a covenant you make with your Creator, with God. And it's to give your first and best fruits of all of your harvest, your time, talent, your treasures. And to tithe that into the place where you receive your spiritual nourishment. So for me, that changes week by week sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes I go for long stretches, even up to a year at a time, with the same ministry, wherever I'm being spiritually nourished by the person of God, the person who is representing God's wisdom to me, is where I plant the tithe. And that's what the tithe is. And it's important where you plant the tithe. A tithe is not a donation to a homeless shelter. A tithe can come from a church or from a minister to a donation to a homeless shelter. But what you sow into, what you tie into, what you... Okay, money is your currency. Money represents paper that comes to life, currency that you are sowing into. So if you sow into, the homeless, you may end up getting an experience of being homeless yourself. Now, I know that sounds ridiculous. It sounds awful. You say, well, hey, I just planted a seed. What gives? Well, here's the thing. It's all about the underlying premise behind the tithe. If I go to a homeless person on the street and I give them $5 out of pity because I see that they're suffering and they're homeless and life really sucks for them, you see, my lying eyes are deceiving me. That's a false representation of God, because that person, that being, is part of God. That person has unlimited godlike power. And so if I sow into that representation of them as a homeless person and say, wow, look at you, you poor thing, here, have some of my currency, that creates a karmic episode where, oh, you poor thing, look at you, you low on the totem pole person. Then it comes to me in some form or fashion. You see how that works? It's a sleight of hand difference. But see, I was taught that you tithe upward for prosperity. So if you need more prosperity to flow in your life, provision, protection, and promotion, the 3 P's, provision, protection, and promotion are guaranteed when you tithe into a ministry that teaches the prosperity gospel and exemplifies the prosperity gospel. So there are a handful of people that I sow into, and I have people that also sow into my ministry, the Minister of Allowing. And then I forward their tithe to where I sow. So that's how it works. And what it does is it ties you into the consciousness of the person or institution you're tithing into. So when an institution is, rich in a bounty and they have private jets, maybe Joel Osteen or Dr. Mike Murdoch, people say, oh, these ministers, what a bunch of scum. They have these private jets and, these multi-million-dollar arenas that they have access to, and all they do is ask people for money. Well, again, you should be so honored to be able to sow into a ministry like that, because the reason why they're flourishing so well is because they're adhering to a standard, the gold standard that is written about in the Bible. It's been practiced throughout centuries, and all civilizations that have practiced it in the right way have gained provision, protection, and promotion from their divine creator.
Are you feeling embarrassed and stuck because you can't focus or concentrate? I have a confession to make. I spent years unable to think clearly, like I was in a fog. I was going through the motions, running my companies, and I hated feeling groggy and mentally sluggish. I couldn't get ahead like this. It's no secret, the powers that be want us dumbed down. Chemicals, fluoride, our brains are under siege, and we are experiencing lower IQs. But now there's a weapon to fight back and win. Introducing DNA Evolve, a revolutionary breakthrough in a category of cognitive enhancers called nootropics. I've been using DNA Evolve and couldn't feel better. For me, it works. It feels great to get things done again and get ahead. Try a free sample for yourself at DNAEvolveSample.com. That's DNAEvolveSample.com. Supplies are limited, so go to DNAEvolveSample.com right now.
So, what I do, to make a long story short, is I sow into the place where I was fed. When I receive a message, which will be, we'll get to that, but that'll be part of the R formula in the S.T.A.R strategy I'm talking about. When I receive an instruction or a message and I act on it and I apply my faith, and every time you apply your faith, a season will change in your life. You see, the saying goes like this: God doesn't care about your need. God's not in the need business. God's in the faith business. Faith moves mountains, not need. Need comes from desperation, from lack, from hopelessness. Again, it's very similar to the vibrational disconnect when you see someone in need and you rush to bail them out. That's why it's not a tithe, because that is not the appropriate energetic exchange, if you will. So, to make a long story short, then what do you do with people who are in a less than situation? Well, the saying goes, you tithe down for health. You tithe up for prosperity, and you tithe down for health. Now, either way you look at it, I tithe to where I receive my spiritual nourishment. I don't tithe to the homeless or to the starving children, etc. That's above and beyond the tithe. I think last year, my company was able to provide through the donations tens of thousands of dollars to feeding children that can't eat, through an organization that takes care of that. And what's good about that is that blesses them, and it's still a seed. That's a seed, but it's not a tithe. And that seed is a good thing, because I plant that seed, and I do it because it's for health, okay? It's for health for me and my family. See, when you have a covenant with your Creator and you tithe up for prosperity and you tithe down for health, it's your Creator's job to do the lifting part, to do the heavy lifting. And so the tithe does a couple very powerful things that you should consider activating as forces to operate in your life. And the first one is that it activates expectation. See, when we give, we tithe in faith, we expect to receive. And see, you don't get in life what you want or need. You get in life what you expect and what you negotiate out of life. So you don't come at life with a need or a want. That's lack. You come at life from a place of strength, from faith. And then the second thing the tithe does is it builds a level of trust that you are supported by life itself. You're adhering to the golden rule. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto yourself. And when you plant the tithe, you're activating the most powerful force in the universe to operate on your behalf, because you are operating from a level of being in faith, and it fires off two things inside of you, expectation and trust. And as you see the unexpected miracles show up in your life, they show up as provision, protection, and promotion. Then it builds a deeper, repetitious layer of trust, and more trust. And with all that trust, it starts to build a conviction. And once you have that conviction, then it locks it in. Okay, you'll have to forgive me, I'm sweaty. I had to stop and go do my sprints. I was too bored walking, you know. I love sharing this information, and I consider this my meditation. But I had to go release a bunch of energy today, so I went for some sprints, and now I'm back walking again. So after we have the seed understanding, and we know how to plant our seeds, and we know that the tithe unlocks permanent prosperity from the universe, the next thing we can do is we can activate the A for the allowing. So here's how you activate it. The surrendered state of being is the part of you that is in control no matter what. And so it's taking control of your reactions. Imagine this. Imagine you already had everything you desired. Okay? Just imagine it, right? Well, if you were being that person now, then would you be perturbed by a little low income day or week or month, or unexpected bill, or something that happens to you that in the grand scheme of things is nothing more than a hiccup or a blip on the radar? Well, no, you wouldn't be perturbed at all, because you know that from the level of being who you are, your full potential self, you're already in control. So essentially, you're letting go of the worry, the concern, the doubt, the fear, and the anxiety that comes from a place of non-trust. And the reason why that's set up is because of judgments, all right? So what you see is not. You know, that's why you live by the seed, you live by faith, okay? Circumstances can change in a New York minute. You can be on top of the world 1 minute, and you could be at the bottom of the pit of hell in 24 hours. You know how I know this? Because it happens all the time. I have a friend who has a large company that's worth tens of millions of dollars, and one of his best friends, a young guy who just got married and had a child, sad story, they were killed in a car accident one night heading home. And this is all happening on the up and upswing when everything was going good, the money was coming in, on top of the world. 24 hours later, they're in another aspect of their full potential self, the non-physical. They're no longer in this planet. Okay, so the alternative can happen where you could be like I was and be bedridden with a affliction when I had Lyme disease, and that's where I found myself. And, 2 years I was stuck in that holding pattern. And I honestly didn't think I was ever going to get out of it in the beginning, because it was so scary and so challenging. It took relentless consciousness, focus, to keep choosing to be a healthy person over and over and over, and training myself out of the consciousness of a sick person to actually allow in the solution to come to me. But when I did, by the grace of God, as they say, within a few months I had a 6-figure income from my couch, and I didn't know how it was going to happen. I just did it. And then a 7-figure income, and since then I've done it several times. Okay? It doesn't mean my life is perfect. You got to know that it's like sitting at the card table, and you can play with nickels on the table, and let's say you play with 25 cents, and you win a couple hands and you're up to 45 cents, and then you drop and you're down to 5 cents, and you may be out of the game. And when you're playing small, being out of the game doesn't hurt so bad. But I promise you, if you go to the $100,000 and up table and you start playing with several $100,000 to several $1 million, and all of a sudden you're down to your last hand, it's going to hurt a lot more, just based on the human mind. The human mind is always comparing, it's always contrasting, large, small, left, right, up, down. And this is how we create time, and I'll talk about that in another episode. But here's the thing. This is the point of points, is that you could be up 1 minute and you could be down the next. But if you play with casino-like advantages and you remain in the allowing state of being, meaning that you drop your judgments, things can shift a lot faster for you by dropping your judgments. Drop your judgments, because that's what puts you in the knowing. See, the saying goes, I think, I know. And you drop your judgments, and then you move into knowing, okay? See, you're quantifying good and bad, right and left, up and down, and that's what creates your excessive thinking, judgments. Now, okay, I'm going to segue. I said I wasn't, but I have to. I got to give you guys a little bit of something that you haven't heard before. Okay, so how do we get caught up in all of this 6 degrees of separation through the 3 kingdoms, the inner, middle, and the outer, the 666, the who, what, when, where, why, and how, the 6 degrees of separation, okay? How do we do that? Well, what if you're trained into it from youth, from birth, and what if your environment is conducive to it? As in, okay, here's a little science experiment that I discovered that is fascinating to me. That, the Nazis were notorious for using fluoride, and they did it for mind control. You can look it up online. I'm not going to verify every statement I say when you can just look it up online yourself. I'm not saying it's done today for that purpose, but I'm saying the Nazis notoriously were always experimenting with mind control and getting people, under their submission, okay? And if you look up the periodic chart of fluoride, it's 44. It's 44 on the periodic chart. That's the numerology of it. Now, if you look at the music, when everything was done by the Nazis again, and it was taken off of the 432 hertz cycle, which is built on a 369. 432 is a 36. It's built on 369. The whole geographic, tachyonic, fractaling universe in all of its splendor, the nature, the harmony of nature. as according to Tesla, is built on 3, 6, and 9. If you want to know the secrets of the universe, understand the 3, 6, and 9. All right? But then we have this weird progression in music. We bring in the 7th, and we bring in the, so if we look at the 3, 6, and 9, in the solfeggio tones, we have the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la. But then we can add in the T, the Ti. And the Ti, consequently, T-I-M-E is time. The Ti is disharmonious. And then when you look at it fractaling through music, and you see the 440 hertz, again, there's the 44. We see that in fluoride. We also see it in the music. So the common denominator that showed up at the scene of the crime every time was the Nazis. And I don't know what their deal is, but I do know, but that's for you to guess. The 440 produces the same inharmonious type of structure like the TI. And so the time is created through a function of thought, okay? Comparison, judgments. That's how we create time. You don't know your age until you see someone younger or older and you make a judgment, and then you understand the passing of time. And when somebody goes and they serve time, then we understand that they quantified a portion of their life to serve the time. Or if we read Time magazine or the New York Times, we see all kinds of things showing up in the matrix about time. All right, so the point of the story is that the 440 hertz equals 36, the 369 perfection, 0.666. 36.666, the mark of the beast. 6 degrees of separation through 3 kingdoms. 666, 440. You see, everything in the universe is tachyonic. It's all fractaling. It's all representing the sameness in different aspects of what you call reality. That's what a hologram is. It's the part is the whole contained. It's a whole ogram. It's the wholeness. Now, how do you step out of the wholeness? Stop judging. How simple is that? How simple is that? Step out of the judgment. It's neither good nor bad. So you want to be in the surrendered state of allowing. We're going back. I'm done with the segue. We're back into the allowing. Bad things have happened to me a lot in my life. Okay? It seems like when you're on a spiritual path and somebody asked me, "What's your birthday, Matthew?" Well, my birthday, I'm not going to give you my exact birthday, but let's just say this. Numerologically, I'm a 7. I have 3 7s in my birthday, and I'm a 7. That's the spiritual path. And when you seem to be on the spiritual path, it's the road that's not going to be the easiest, because it's all about awakening and truth, and that the real justice, not the departed of justice that we seem to experience. But then again, who's to judge, right? See, maybe it's all just a temptation to get us to give our energy into it. Maybe it's all just appearing so that we step out of our center. Maybe we're supposed to stay in our center, in our relaxed, allowing state of being, so that our inner hologram can reflect its perfection back to us on the outside external. But if all the influences come from the 440 hertz to the fluoride to the 5G, you name it. Let's just say there are some influences that we could get sucked into mainstream programming. It's a program, that's why they call it programming. And we buy into this. Oh, look at what they did. Look at this, look at that. It's awful, it's horrible, it's evil, it's corrupt, it's wicked. See, what happens is we just stepped out of our power, we stepped out of our now, and we entered a fiction. And that is why I said it all relates to time, because now space is now time. And if you look at the quantum grammar, by David-Wynn: Miller, or Russell-J: Gould, you understand that now time, now space is the only reality, it's the only fact. Everything else is fiction. So if something happened and you see it, it's in the fiction. It's not in your now, it's a fiction. Past and future are fiction. That's how it all correlates to time. Now, you want to hack the surrendered state of being by non-judgment. That puts you in the knowing. And the last part of the S.T.A.R strategy is receiving. You're going to find very few people on this planet who are master receivers. I'd like to say I'm getting pretty good at it, but I know a lot of people that are better than me. And so I'll give you an opportunity. If you want to activate the tithing principle and you feel blessed by the message today and you don't have a place to tithe, then send me your tithe and I will forward it to where I send mine. And I will do you this solid of receiving your blessing so that you, impart, can birth expectation and desire for increase. And when you do that, then you get to activate the principle of seed sowing and tithing. Now, I don't really care if you do it or not. I'm not going to sit there and tell you, oh, please tithe to me. I need your tithes. In fact, I'll never come to you like that. If I ever was down to my last, I would go get a job flipping burgers if I had to, because I'm not proud. I will do whatever it takes to support my family. It just so happens I've manifested a plethora of good in my life, and my life is pretty lavish, and yet it's very simple because I learned that simple is what I like. I scaled it all down and I've found the sweet spot of where I feel comfortable and I feel connected to my inner higher self, and that's the real richness that I find most valuable, is that I can stay in that state of being. So with that said, the receiving part is the big one. Let me look at the notes here, make sure I don't forget anything. Okay, so what keeps you out of the receiving? Well, you know that all of the anger, the guilt, the frustration, all of these byproducts of judgments that you've made will keep you out of receiving. And what it does is it moves you from now space into fiction. And the reason why it does that is because it's built on corrupted language that's been going on for eons. And that corrupt language puts you in a adverb fiction reality. And that language runs your mind, which is the 36.666. So you have the 36, which is the perfection of what you see. See, nature. Nature is the closest thing to perfection you're going to find. And you add the 666 on it, and it becomes disharmonious. Well, it's because your 6 degrees of separation through your 3 kingdoms. How is it going to happen? Who, when, why, where? All of these things separate you from now time, from now space, and put you into fiction, and it puts you into contrast. And some contrast is good, but if you're stuck, then I'll tell you why you're stuck. It's because of judgments that you've made that have come back, and you have to pay your karmic debt. When we pass judgment on ourselves, and then we have to pay the debt, and it comes back and it robs us of our currency. And so that's why you want to flip the tables and put these seeds in the universe that will come back to pay you a abundant harvest. Your seeds will multiply and they will grow, and that's the kind of prosperity that I'm talking about. And I made it kind of, I guess it was pretty in-depth explanation, but let's recap real quick. The S.T.A.R strategy is you live by the seed. You sow the seeds daily. I recommend you get my new book, Ask Until It's Given, if you don't know how to be a seed sowing factory to bring in divine favor, because divine favor can do for you in a moment what a lifetime of labor will not. Divine favor is when somebody likes you and blesses you, somebody who has the power to do good things in your life. And how you get that is by sowing honor up. Now, I discovered an acronym for it, SALUTE, salute, serve, understand, love, appreciate, trust, and excellence or efficiency. And what you do is you put each one of those into each day and repeat it like a workout regimen, 6 days a week, 1 day off. And what it does is it becomes part of your consciousness. And as it becomes part of your consciousness, seeds have inherent organizing power when they're planted in the fertile imagination, and they start to transpire into action. And then that action becomes cellular memory, which becomes reaction, which becomes karma. So you start now and you build your daily habits, because your daily habits become your destiny. And that's how you make impossible goals possible, is by stop and break it down to the simple mechanics of it, build that into your daily structure, and then put it on autoplay and live your life and enjoy it and watch the magic happen. You see, you get what you sow in life. So become a seed sowing factory, activate the permanent prosperity principle of tithing if you're courageous enough to do it and to go against all the naysayers and the doubting Thomases out there. And again, I'm not doing this as a pitch for you to tithe to me, although certainly you can, and it will bless you. Now, the next thing is you're going to allow, by non-judgment, surrender. You're going to allow yourself to be in a state of surrender, which means you're in control. And when you drop the judgments, you begin knowing. And when you begin knowing, you do less thinking, and you go back to the 36 and drop off the 666. And by the way, that new audio I just created that's on this channel has the 432 hertz with the reverse speech language, and I put all of the affirmations in the description that you can listen to in reverse, so they get right into the fertile unconscious part of you. And you can listen to that, and if you want to opt in, then you can get the full version where I take you through a guided meditation with it that has releasing Ho'oponopono, and it has the box breathing in it that puts you into the midbrain. And so it's a masterpiece, literally. And what it's designed to do is everything's designed to put you back into now space, remove the fiction, take the 36, drop off the .666, gone, and then you're back in your flow, you're back in the harmony, you're back flowing with nature again. And you know, synchronistically, the water is in that. You hear the raindrops, and the water has everything to do with flow. Think about it, liquidity, cash flow, all of these things mean something, and I'll talk more about that another time. So for now, take care, and we'll see you next time. Hey, it's Matthew, and before you go, check this place out. This is the House on the Rock Resort in Spring Green, Wisconsin. It is amazing. It's transformational, and the reason why I'm showing you this is because I'm having a live workshop here for just a select few dozen people, and I'm going to be teaching a breakthrough technique called the self-entrainment technique. Here's what it allows you to do and gives you the power to command what you desire in your universe. See, it's not about thinking, because thoughts are a symptom of vibration. You can't climb the emotional vibrational scale like some self-help experts and law of attraction leaders tell you. That's nonsense. When I was bedridden and bankrupt, that stuff didn't work at all. Here's what works. You shift your physiology, you transform the neural pathways, and you change your state of being, and then new thoughts and new ideas come to you as a symptom of your new vibrational set point. And one shortcut secret, one scientific technique has the power and the ability to teach you that. So check out the webinar link below and watch the webinar and find out how you can participate and get to this seminar no matter what it takes. If you want a transformation, this is it. This is the answer. I'll see you at the webinar.